Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report.
I have not seen the report.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us here on Global Morning. And we are welcoming you to the first edition of the show for the new business week that has just started. This is Global Television. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Trust me, it's always a delight to know that you're here waiting for the show to get kick-started, and that's exactly what we have done. But one thing that's moving real slow now is the availability of petroleum products, particularly premium motor spirits, the one we popularly call petrol or fuel. This morning, queues abound across Abuja. That's the heart of the nation, the very center of it. And we're hearing now that these queues have extended to places like Ogun, Rivers, and even Lagos. So you're asking yourself, what exactly is the cause of this situation where we are now having some kind of scarcity? The intriguing thing about it is just a few days ago, in the course of the week that was, the group GMD of the NNPCL, that is the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, has said, look, there's no fuel scarcity. In fact, we have more than sufficient volume of product. The challenge is one that has to do with logistics. What exactly does that mean? We'll break it down for you in the course of the show this morning. In the meantime, we're hearing now that even marketers, suppliers of the products are now prioritizing Abuja as a destination for availability. So you find many of the depots now redirecting traffic, so to speak, to the nation's capital. So let's see how that pans out between now and, say, close of business today. But supposing we, as they say in the industry, wet the entire Federal Capital Territory with the product, what does that do to other parts of the country that equally need petrol to stay afloat, whether for home use, for businesses, or for industrial purposes? These are very salient questions to which we need to provide answers as we make progress into the day and, by extension, the entire new week. For a country like Nigeria, it's embarrassing, and it means some sort of stagnation, because businesses are not able to move forward, homes are not able to power appliances, and then the entire nation has to suffer for it economically and socially. So we'd like to believe that the key stakeholders are doing something real quick and brilliant enough to resolve this as quickly as possible. We also want to take our time this morning to look at a few other issues for you. We understand that the issue of escapees from prisons has become very topical in recent years, particularly in recent months. We're seeing prison breaks or jail breaks across this country, whether it's in the south or in the northwest, even in the southwest, southeast, and even up north. We've seen that happen. The most recent one is not a jailbreak per se, but it was as a result of torrential rain and flood that dealt a very, if you like, dangerous blow to the Suleja prisons, just on the fringes of the Federal Capital Territory, somewhere between Abuja and, of course, Niger State. Suleja is Niger State, no doubt about that. But the thing is, that has, from what we hear now, left at least over 100, yes, a little over 100 inmates on the loose. We've seen reports of 105, we've seen reports of 118. We've also seen some news reports saying it's 119. But fact of the matter is, you have them in dozens. All of these persons are now, like I said, on the streets. All right, they've escaped from prison. And the question is, what has happened to correctional facilities across this country. Most of them are referred to as colonial era prisons. What does that mean? It means most of these prisons were here already before Nigeria gained independence. So most of them, some people are referred to as the Lord Lugard prisons, others say they are the British colonial prison system. But what have we done as a country? 6 decades and counting to bring some form of reforms. And it will appear as one word that has been so bastardized, so unrepentantly, all right, unapologetically abused in this country: reforms. I mean, every government, top to bottom, federal, states, and local, just touts that term as if it's a buzzword of some kind. Have we really seen reforms in the prisons right now? We have a Minister of Interior now who is supposed to also oversee not just immigration, but prisons, fire service, and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, the NSCDC. But in the middle of trying to find balance, all right, in this mix of commitments, how much of attention does he or the Ministry of Interior pay to issues that have to do with our prisons? We're taking a quick break, everyone. Let's join Fatimi Umar as we bring you Taste and Texture.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode on Taste and Texture. I'm Fatimi Abu Umar. Today we'll be making a delicious meal, the yam with plantain and veggies. Yam porridge with plantain is an incredibly rich and tasty one-pot meal, and as the name implies, the recipe is basically made with porridge and plantains, seasoned with salt and fortified with spinach and dry fish. The Nigerian porridge recipe is flavorful. It's rich and so comforting, and it's often eaten as lunch or week meal, but can basically be eaten any time of the day. I need to mention that this recipe, also known as aliases, the yam porridge or asaro traditionally called. In this recipe, I have used dry fish, which you can replace with stockfish, but I always advise that you don't skip the dry or stockfish because it does add a depth of flavor to the meal. Yam porridge or asaro, as I like to call it, is a classic Nigerian meal on its own, likewise plantain porridge, but the combination of both yam and plantain equals to goodness overload. The plantains add another level of sweetness to this yam, which makes the meal not just savory but sweet. The ingredients needed are 2 yam small puna, 2 plantains large, 1 stockfish, 2 tablespoon crayfish, half cup of palm oil, 1 stock cube, salt to taste, a handful of spinach, 4 to 4.5 cups of water. To make the sauce, 1 of each onion, tomato, bell pepper, and habanero, blend and parboiled. Now let's get down to how to make it. Peel the yam and cut into smaller cubes. Rinse the cubed yams immediately to prevent it from browning and leave them in water until you are ready to use them. Peel the plantain and cut them into cubes. Put the cubed yams, plantain, stockfish inside a large pot. Cover it up and allow it to cook for 30 to 35 minutes. Stir in the blended peppers, tomatoes, and onions, palm oil, and crayfish. Use a potato masher or a wooden spoon to mash the yam and plantains to your desired consistency. Add the spinach and adjust the water and seasoning if necessary. Let it simmer for a minute or 2. Serve hot and enjoy your meal with a chilled glass of water or juice. Enjoy. Before we round up, let's take a quick look at the health benefits. Yam has a high percentage of carbohydrate, which makes it a good source of energy. The vitamins in yam give it an edge over other foods that do not have it. Vitamin B complex, which is also in yam, provides the body with necessary nutrients. Vitamin A is good for bright eyes and improves vision. Yam provides the body with iron, which aids in blood formation and prevents clothing. Potassium, which maintains normal blood pressure, and other various minerals that are good for body. Lastly, yam contains the highest amount of potassium nutrient, including folate among other food, which helps to lower hypertension and modify the blood vessels for proper blood flow. Therefore, it's advised that daily consumption of yam is good to the body as it controls the heart rate. That's all for now. See you same time next time for another finger-licking episode of Taste and Texture. Bye!
Thank you so very much, Fatima, for helping us make sense of that culinary idea right there. But just a while ago, I was talking about which is around fuel and how that it has become a scarce commodity. Yes, an essential commodity it is, no doubt about that, but now it has become a scarce one, which makes it very disturbing. Just yesterday, Paul Alaje, who is one of Nigeria's frontline economic analysts, was talking on Twitter, as we formerly knew it, now X, and he tweeted something of interest, and he said that fuel prices per litre, he called it in the other market, which of course is referring to the black market. All right, he says in Sokoto, this is him talking, independent, I mean, we're not independently done on investigation to authenticate this, but this is what he says on X. Of course, this was tweeted just at about just before noon yesterday. It says fuel price per litre, the other market, Sokoto 2,000 naira, that's per litre, all right? It says in Abuja 1,300, where we are in the Federal Capital Territory. And then in Lagos, which is the commercial nerve center of Nigeria, it says it's 800. It says someone is still saying naira is discovering itself. Another person claims there is scarcity because the fuel price is expected to go down. Well, I didn't blame him. How can there be scarcity due to low price expectations? It says this claim has no economic sense in it. There is scarcity and queue at filling stations when there is an expectation of increase in price for or shortage in supply. Okay, so on that note, we're going to bring you business reports with Kikelemo Okere.
Hello and welcome to Business Reports on Global Morning. The federal government of Nigeria received an additional 3.8 trillion naira in what appears to be fresh ways and means borrowing in the last 6 months of 2023. This is according to the provisional data published in the latest statistics bulletin for the fourth quarter of 2023, recently released by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The CBN provision data shows that the total figure rose from 4.4 trillion naira at the end of June 2023, meaning that the cumulative ways and means balance due by the government now stands at 8.2 trillion naira as of December 2023. This is despite news reports noting that the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, which suggests President Tinubu's government has not borrowed money from the CBN. The Ways and Means provision serves as a mechanism enabling the government to secure short-term or emergency financing from the CBN to address cash flow gaps. Total Ways and Means balances as of May 2023, when Tinubu's administration took over, was 26.95 trillion naira. However, the balance was securitized as included as part of the federal government domestic debt profile. The Nigerian Custom Exchange rate for import duty collection has risen by 11.0% from 1,150 to $1 to 1,227 naira to $1, according to the latest update on the custom exchange rate window. This indicates an increase of 127.36 naira between April 23 and 25, 2024. The Central Bank of Nigeria had previously announced that the exchange rate indicated on the Form M application date will be used for duty collection calculations. Collaborating closely with the CBN, the NCS regularly updates the exchange rate to synchronize with the official market rate on the NAFEM window, consequently leading to the frequent adjustments in the rate. The exchange rate for custom import duty collection has been steadily increasing after a naira depreciation from a peak of 1,612 naira to $1 earlier in March to 1,000 naira, occasioned by the strengthening of the naira. However, following a depreciation of the naira in the past weeks, the exchange rate has been rising steadily. On the 21st of this month, the exchange rate stood at 1,150 naira from 1,147 naira because of the marginal weakening of the naira. However, the naira closed on the official window at 1,329 naira to the greenback on the official window, according to data from CBN. The Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, Doris Uzoka Anite, has confirmed that about 150,000 individuals received the sum of 50,000 naira this week from the conditional grant scheme initiated by the federal government. The minister made this disclosure in a statement on her X handle. Uzoka Anite, however, urged the public to be cautious of fraudulent and unscrupulous individuals in demanding payment for processing the grant, emphasizing that the scheme is entirely free and does not require any fee. She reiterated that the grant scheme is targeted at 1 million people in total, adding that a list of all beneficiaries will be released upon completion. Meanwhile, the minister had previously announced that the deadline for the registering for the grant scheme is April 17, 2024. Despite the stated deadline, she encouraged those who have not yet registered to proceed with their application. She noted that there is still a chance for late registrants to become beneficiaries of the grant, suggesting a possible flexibility in the registration process. The Nigerian stock market witnessed a modest uptick in its principal indicators, with the NGX All-Share Index climbing by 48 points to close at 98,169.30. Market capitalization experienced a slight increase of 0.05%, ending the day at 55.52 trillion naira, up from 55.49 trillion naira at the previous close, reflecting a gain of around 27 billion naira. Among the advancing stocks, Transcohort led the pack as the top earner out of 16 gainers, while Sovereign recorded a 10% decline, placing it at the bottom of list of 24 decliners. Zenith Bank emerged as a focal point in the day's trading, attracting significant trading volume and value. The total number of trade for the day settled at 7,417, marking a reduction from the previous session of 7,907 transactions. Trading volume in the market took a downturn, registering a 24.9% fall to 297.2 million shares compared to the 395.75 million from the last session. Leading the volume chart was Zenith Bank with 48.49 million shares, with Access Corp not far behind at 39.88 million shares. Other significant trading volume were noted by Transcorp at 28.47 million shares, UBA with 22.94 million, and Nigerian Breweries rounded out the top 5 with 20.30 million shares. In parallel, the total trade value also witnessed a 31.95% reduction, settling at 6.52 billion naira, a notable decrease from the previous 9.58 billion naira, which translates to a 3.06 billion naira shortfall. Zenith Bank dominates the trade value, securing 1.77 billion naira, followed by MTN at 1.04 billion naira. Other noteworthy trading value were posted by Access Corp at 639.96 million naira, Nigerian Breweries at 560.16 million naira, and UBA at 525.55 million naira. The SWOT Group financial outcome were varied, with Transcohort reversing its previous day's 10% loss by achieving a notable 9.75% increase in the share price. MTN Nigeria saw a slight rise of 0.2%. In contrast, the banking sector experienced a downturn, with Zenith and GT Company market value dipping by 0.55% and 0.31% respectively. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Thank you, Kike Lomo Okeri, for that snapshot of business from last week. We'll keep you posted with Kike Lomo today as business resumes across the country and beyond. Far away in those states, there will be an election gubernatorial election. Of course, for starters, Edo State has off-cycle election, which is scheduled for 21st of September this year by INEC. Now, all of the parties that have thrown their hats in the ring now has the candidates, whether it's the PDP, the APC, the Labour, and the other parties. But the point is, campaigns were flagged off. I mean, INEC lifted the freeze on campaign last Wednesday. So for the last couple of days, these parties, their candidates and supporters have intensified efforts to put the word out about their candidates, their manifesto, and whatever it is they wanted all people to know about them. However, the challenge is you have a couple of these parties that have internal issues. I mean, quite a number of them. But let's begin with the APC and the PDP. First of all is the PDP. Recall that last year, once it was clear to the public that Dr. Asue Godalo, a consummate lawyer and an economist, investment banker as well, would also be vying for the ticket of the PDP. A lot of persons had said, look, this is the clone of Godwin Obaseki, who is the incumbent governor of the state. But then Obaseki himself had come out time and again to say, look, this man is an adult. I mean, he can take care of himself, and he's taking care of himself. He wants to be governor of the state because he believes there's some value he can bring. I mean, don't strap him to me. I have no hand in his decision to want to be part of the process. Asue Godalo, on the other hand, both on television and on the streets, has said he is not the third term of Godwin Obaseki, as some persons have speculated. But they say figures don't lie, and somewhere worried they say photos don't lie. All right, so we're going to get to all that in the course of the show this morning. However, the point is, within the PDP, there's a big gulf. So you have the Governor Godwin Obaseki faction of the party, you have the Dan Obi faction of the party. Again, for the records, Dan Obi is the national vice chairman of the PDP in the South-South. So all of the South-South of the PDP are under Dan Obi, who is seen as a very influential force as far as Edo politics is concerned. Just 2 days ago, Saturday to be precise, he said, look, Asue Godalo is not the way forward for the PDP, particularly as this forthcoming election, which is just give or take barely 5 months away, is concerned. He held a meeting in his hometown of Ogbonna, somewhere in Isako Central in Edo State, where he told leaders from across the area that, look, this was a bad move in the first instance, all right? This move is dead on arrival, he was essentially telling them, because he also used that opportunity to announce that he's not a part and parcel of the campaign team that has been set up in the states. And we are hearing that, by the way, the governor himself, the incumbent governor, will lead the campaign team. That is for the PDP. Also recall that before now, it had been the governor versus the deputy, former deputy, I should say, Philip Shaibu. Now the state has a new deputy governor, someone who was, as it were, some people would argue, adopted from the Labour Party to come into the PDP. So it's quite a complex issue. You come to the APC, there are people who still have not moved past the fact that their preferred candidate or their preferred aspirant didn't emerge as candidate of the party. So you still have both the APC and the PDP with cases in courts as we speak right now. Now, analysts and even onlookers are now saying, look, if these political parties, particularly the APC and the PDP, do not put their acts together, do not put their house in order early enough. So two things. They've got to put their act together, get their act together. That's the first. The second is that they have to do that real quick. Otherwise, this could haunt them going into the election. Now, campaigns have started. All the political parties are expressing confidence and optimism that they will carry the day, whether it's the Labour Party, the PDP, or the APC. They're all saying they have what it takes to win the state. But there's also the argument around incumbency factor. They say that will likely work for Asue Godalo, being that his political godfather and benefactor, Godwin Obaseki, is going to pave a way for him where there appears to be no way, whatever that means politically speaking. As for the APC candidates, it's serving Senator Monday Okpebholo. The argument in his favor by those who follow him, particularly persons in his party, is that the federal might, as it has come to be known in this country, could also work in his favor, because let's say the APC is at the federal level. I mean, it's the government at the federal level. President Bola Tinubu would not allow Edo State to stay or continue to stay in the hands of the PDP, and as such, all efforts will be made. No effort will be spared to ensure that Monday Okpebholo emerges as the governor of the state come 21st of September this year. But the important thing ultimately is by noon of 12th November this year, everything else equal, there will be a new sheriff in town as Edo State, as far as Edo State is concerned, and that will be a new governor at Osadebe Avenue, the official residence of the governor of Edo State. That's part of our conversation for you this morning. We're taking a quick break, everyone. It will be the Global AM News shortly, and the rest of the show will return behind it. So stay with us. Very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us here on Global Television. This is the AM News. I'm Uyag Mofwege. President Bola Tinubu has stated during a panel session at the ongoing World Economic Forum in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which focuses on global collaboration, growth, and energy for development, that his administration's removal of fuel subsidy was in the best interest of Nigeria, adding that it was necessary not to plunge the country into bankruptcy. President Tinubu said that the country's belief is in economic collaboration and inclusiveness among other nations to drive stability on the global stage. He further added that for Nigeria, the country is immensely consistent with the belief that the economic collaboration and inclusiveness are necessary to engender stability across the rest of the world. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP in Oyo State, has cleared all chairmanship seats across the 33 local government areas of the state. Oyo State's Independent Electoral Commission announced the results of the council poll held on Saturday, April 27, which had in attendance the commission's chairman, Isiaka Olanguju SAN, State Commissioner of Police, Debola Hamzat, among others. However, the All Progressives Congress APC chapter in the state on Saturday demanded the cancellation of the poll, claiming that the election was, in its words, a sham, warning that if allowed to proceed, it may damage the state's reputation. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has called for synergy among the consultants and the secretariats of the Senate and House committees on constitutional review to set the pace for effective collaboration to drive the ongoing exercise to a successful conclusion. Kalu made the call while delivering his remarks at the joint retreats of the Secretariat and consultants to the Senate and House of Reps committees on the review of the Constitution over the weekend. The Deputy Speaker further asked the stakeholders to review the previous amendments proposals, which were either not passed by the National or State Assembly, so were not assented to by the President, and consider how these issues can be reintroduced with a view to providing methods of processing them or an action plan that will ensure that reservations which led to their rejection are addressed. President Niger Delta Progressive Youth Leadership Foundation, Adams Marble, has called for a concerted effort to end Nigeria's oil production shortfalls via a vibrant amnesty program initiative, as other stakeholders also commended President Bola Tinubu for the appointment of a competent amnesty program leadership for the good of the region and nation at large. Marble made this known at a press conference in the nation's capital in Abuja. Let's now join Anthony Momodu for details.
The declaration of the Niger Delta Amnesty Program by President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua on June 24, 2009, to quell unrest in the region, which hitherto affected the country's oil production output and revenue, has since its establishment enhanced the nation's oil production output, reduced oil theft, and increased the revenue earnings of the country. Thus, the Niger Delta Progressive Youth Leadership Foundation, led by its president, Adams Mabo, is calling for the tempo to be sustained by the present administration to safeguard the sudden re-emergence of oil production shortfall and oil theft and amnesty program sabotage by some state and non-state actors.
Our Niger Delta region is the highest revenue earner for the federal government of Nigeria, and we deserve more critical federal government appointment that reflect our vast economic resources in the country of Nigeria.
To call for every sons and daughters of the Niger Delta region to come out to support his initiatives for him to succeed as the current administrator of the program.
Courtesy of the presidential amnesty program, it has sent a lot of persons to participate in a postgraduate and undergraduate program. So we want to throw our weight of support to Dr. Dennis Otuaro, and we want to believe that his emergence and his leadership will bring a lot of Niger Deltans to benefit in the educational opportunities of the presidential amnesty program.
Mabo and other youth leaders commended President Tinubu for the foresight and commitment towards the Niger Delta people's safety and development through progressive policies, reforms, and competent appointment, while berating saboteurs of the government's effort.
The appointment of Dr. Dennis Otuaro shows that you are a listening father and leader who is committed to the genuine development of the Niger Delta region.
Before the president come up with the appointment of Dr. Otuaro, I think he has done his own due diligence and he has not disappointed us.
We should focus on what is on ground. What is on ground presently is we need our brothers to go to school. We need our brothers to focus on the vocational training that is domiciled in office.
Mabo and some women leaders also called on stakeholders and Nigerians involved in Nigeria's oil production value chain to be transparent and committed, especially the Niger Delta people, to reduce the sufferings of Nigerians in the region and across the country.
And as the national woman leader of Isoko Nation, we are hereby supporting Denis Otuaro. He has highly contributed to the Niger Delta region.
It has been a great help to us, we the robots. Is it the children in school? When he was not known, he personally used his fund to take care of the robots. He take care of the children, take care of their mothers, even the widows. I cannot testify to this.
The group said the unrestricted implementation of the recommendations of the Niger Delta program will enhance Nigeria's oil production output and earnings, which in turn will arguably and genuinely prevent future militarized protest and also provide a durable socio-economic progress of the region and the nation at large. Anthony Momodu reporting for Global Television.
Socio-Economic Crisis and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, over the failure to account for and explain the whereabouts of the alleged missing $2.04 billion and 164 billion naira oil revenues. The suit followed an allegation documented in the recently published 2020 audited report by the Auditor General of the Federation that the NNPCL had failed to remit the money into the Federation accounts. Bandits raided the Alawa community 3 days after the military authorities withdrew soldiers in the community in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. One of the residents, Malam Yahuza Alawa, who confirmed the invasion, said bandits entered Alawa and the adjoining communities on Sunday morning and stole their feedstuffs and other valuables, including goats and domestic animals. He said there has been a huge challenge at Central Primary School Arena, where dozens of them sought refuge, citing hunger and lack of space to sleep as major issues. Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa in Abuja called on Nigerians, irrespective of tribe or religion, to shame the country's enemies by uniting against banditry, terrorism, and other common enemies. Speaking at the second edition of Unity Schools All Students Association Sports Carnival, Musa called on Nigerians to continue to promote the nation's diversity for national development. The federal government, through the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, CNGI, has attracted a $50 million deal for the conversion of commercial vehicles to run on compressed natural gas. The PCNGI Program Director and Chief Executive Michael Oluwagbemi stated that the deal, which was a private sector initiative, would enable the construction of CNG conversion workshop infrastructure across Nigeria. PCNGI is a component of President Bola Tinubu administration's palliative directed at providing succor to the masses following the removal of fuel subsidy to alleviate the burden of rising fuel prices. The federal government allocated 100 billion naira from the 500 billion naira palliative budget to buy 5,500 CNG vehicles, tricycles, 100 electric buses, and over 20,000 CNG conversion kits. The federal government has begun the demolition of property affected by the right-of-way on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road construction. Special Advisor Orji Uchena on media to Minister of Works David Umahi made this known in a statement released on Sunday in Abuja. The project would mark a major milestone in the renewed hope roadmap of President Bola Tinubu towards economic diversification. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has appointed the senator representing Borno Central District, Kaka Shehu Lawal, as the chairman of the 2024 Berino Hajj Steering Committee. Inaugurating the committee at the Council Chamber, Government House in Maiduguri, the state capital, the governor noted that the aim of establishing the committee was to ensure a strong base that would drive an effective exercise of the 2024 Hajj in Mecca. Senator Lawan explained that the job of steering the Hajj committee is multitasking and will be very easy and successful with the help of committee members. A special squad of police operatives deployed by Delta State Commissioner of Police Olu Feni Bani Wanda to accelerate the fight against crime in the state has broken into the dens of suspected kidnappers in Sapele and Ugeli areas of the state. The police public relations officer for Delta State Command, Bright Edafe, in a signed statement in Warri, said that the special squad led by ASP Julius Robinson arrested 6 suspected kidnappers. They recovered 1 pump-action gun, 3 Beretta pistols, 1 revolver pistol, 1 locally made custom-sized gun, and they have also rescued 3 kidnapped victims. The PPRO stated that efforts are being intensified to arrest the other fleeing gangsters. Commissioner of Police in Delta State Command, Bani Wanda Olufemi, has reiterated that the welfare of both serving and late officers is part of the primary interest of the Inspector General of Police. Police Olufemi stated this while presenting a check of over 47 million naira to the family of deceased police officers in Asaba, headquarters of the command. The checks were issued to the next of kin of the deceased officers and are part of the IGP's family welfare scheme, group life assurance and group personal accident insurance schemes. Watching the Global AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital in Abuja. We are Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us on our social media platforms using our Global CVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the news returns, poor water power supply, governors hire consultants to break this coast monopoly. These and other stories will have coming your way shortly after this break. Please stay with us. This is Global Television, bringing you a live broadcast of the AM News with Uyag Mofwebe. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take you to the foreign scene now, where President of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, has deployed an election observation mission of 40 observers to Togo to monitor the legislative and regional elections scheduled for April 29, 2024. A statement by the regional bloc says the mission is in line with the provisions of Article 12 of the ECOWAS Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance, as well as constitutes support from the regional organization to its member states for the conduct of their elections. The observation mission is being deployed following the recommendations of a pre-election fact-finding mission that visited Togo from 15 to 20 April 2024 to assess the preparatory phases of the elections. During its stay in Togo, the observation mission will hold consultations with the main stakeholders in the electoral process and monitor the voting process up to 29th April 2024. A Russian drone attack heavily damaged a hotel in Ukraine's southern city of Mykolaiv. The governor of the broader Mykolaiv region said the hotel housed the English-speaking mercenaries fighting in Ukraine. Kyiv and Ukraine's State Emergency Service said the Russian attack also damaged windows in a nearby hotel and that heat-generating infrastructure had been damaged. The death toll due to floods in Kenya has risen to 76, with 29 people injured and 19 still missing A government spokesperson said as authorities ordered more evacuations of people from at-risk areas due to ongoing heavy rainfall. Earlier, a truck carrying people in Makueni County, southern Kenya, was swept away by raging waters. The president said that he is working with multi-agency teams to, quote, provide adequate support to all those in need and to move citizens who are in dangerous areas that may be susceptible to floods away from those areas. And of course, the Kenya Meteorological Department issued an advisory explaining that heavy rainfall will continue in several parts of the country, including the capital, Nairobi, through the intensity is likely to reduce yesterday. In the business, governors of the 36 states of the Federation have agreed to work together to tackle epileptic power supply in the country. As part of measures to achieve this objective, the governors have agreed to take steps to break the monopoly of DISCOs in power distribution across the state. The Naira has recovered against the US dollar at the parallel market as it appreciated to 1,280 to the greenback. This implied that the Naira appreciated by 120, representing a gain of 8.57%, when the local currency had in the midweek lost a third of its value barely 2 weeks after strengthening to below 1,000 Naira against the dollar compared to the 1,400 Naira to the dollar at which it traded. It later dropped to 1,400 Naira against the dollar at the black markets on reports of fresh damaged demand pressure. Currency traders had attributed the recent depreciation of the Naira to market forces as supply had been unable to meet up with the demand. Let's turn to sports for you now. Alex Iwobi has moved ahead of John Mikel Obi on the list of highest capped Nigerian players in the Premier League, as Iwobi was in action for 90 minutes in Fulham's 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace at the Craven Cottage on Saturday, which was his 250th Premier League appearance. The 27-year-old was previously tied to 449 appearances with former Chelsea midfielder Mikel. Iwobi will now set his sights on usurping Yakubu Ayebeni in third position. For the second consecutive time in 2 months, the Super Eagles have seen their squad market value drop in the transfer market. Despite finishing second at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast in February, the three-time African champions suffered a massive drop of 121 million euros the first time this year. They dropped down 2 steps and are now ranked the 15th most valuable international team in the world, while retaining their position as the most financially valuable team in Africa. And it turns out that's a full circle here on the Global AA News. So thank you so very much for watching. The rest of Global Morning continues shortly. Do stay with us. Thank you everyone for staying with us on the show. This morning we have papers already here for you. Queen Agaba has joined Global Morning. It's Monday, of course. So Queen, good to see you.
Good morning, good to see you too.
Sure you had a great weekend?
Yeah, I did. I had a beautiful weekend. Plus my cousin gave birth.
First child?
Yes, her first child. On Saturday evening. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole lot. And I feel like it made me reflect. Am I ready for this experience? Because, you know, we're excited to see the baby, but the pain, you know, she had been in labor and for a prolonged period of time. So you see that much, you know, what women have to go through. She was in labor and after that period, I think they said the baby was too big. A lot of tests was, you know, done on her, and then she was operated on, you know, after that long period of labor and all that.
Very excruciating experience.
At this point, I just want to say women are
awesome.
We're awesome.
And that's why we have to celebrate them 4 times a year. We celebrate men once. I mean, is that not a way of emphasizing the awesomeness of women?
True.
Okay, so let's turn to the papers for you, everyone, this morning. First off, we have the Vanguard newspaper. All right, let's see what the Vanguard has got for us. Big story. I mean, every Nigerian can relate with this right now. It says petrol scarcity will linger for 2 more weeks. That's Ipman speaking, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Okay, saying petrol scarcity will linger for 2 weeks. I had my own share of it this morning. Maybe just the first day of the week, of the 2-week period. Maybe it's the 4th day into it, but it's what we're dealing with at the moment. But then you have a couple of riders associated with that headline. The first one reads, as scarcity spreads nationwide, long queues emerge at filling stations. Hawkers sell petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. Commuters stranded at motor parks. We have adequate stock, NNPC. Scarcity hurting businesses. Of course, that goes without saying. Okay, you know, it's interesting, Queen. I mean, it's much of an irony when the NNPCL says we have adequate products. So what's the problem? Last week they told us it was logistics related. And now, how are we dealing with logistics? Ipman says we're going to have to deal with this for 2 weeks. And don't forget that Ipman is also very pivotal in the chain of petrol supply and business in this country. I don't know how difficult or otherwise it was for you to get a vehicle today.
Yeah, it was difficult for me to get a vehicle today, and the prices of we're hearing that for some places the petrol prices varies, but we still hear that the prices have been stable in some parts of Abuja.
Right.
But I wonder why, you know, the price of transport fare have increased. I want to believe it's because of the price you have to pay to get this fuel, even if you're getting it for the price it was a few days ago or a few weeks ago. But because I see a lot of people wake up as early as 5 a.m. First hand is my neighbor who says she has to be up as early as 5 a.m. to go queue at the NNPC filling station to get fuel. So
it's interesting. 2 weeks sounds like a lifetime, but what can we do? All right, but let's hope it abates early enough so we can get back, get our lives back, as we say. Why Naira depreciated by 23% in 4 days, currency dealers, analysts. And then one here says, we need to see that for you real quick. It's still on the same Vanguard. Yes, the same Vanguard newspaper. Yes, great. So is that a fruit of the Vanguard, actually? Let's see what it says. Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, FG begins enforcement of rights of way. We understand those affected will be adequately compensated. We hope that happens soon enough, and standard procedure is followed as well. We removed petrol subsidy to avoid bankruptcy. That is President Bola Tinubu speaking in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to international partners. But let's take it a notch higher on the front page of the Vanguard this morning with headlines above the nameplate. Sawanlu sacks, let's see what it is. It sacks 425 LWC redundant officials. For me, operative word being redundant. I mean, you can't be redundant and have a job. You've got to bring value, you've got to show capacity and competence. Okay, Edo Guba, why Obi Shaibu, Ajoto, others are ganging up against Obaseki. That story has 3 riders you'd like to see for yourself. Edo Guba, why Obi, Shaibu, Ajoto, others are ganging up against Obaseki. It appears this is going to be some sort of earthquake and tsunami combined on both sides. Recall that Obi is Chief Dan Obi is the South-South vice chairman or national vice chairman of the People's Democratic Party. So you have 2 factions of the PDP in Edo State. There's the Governor Obaseki faction, and then there's the Dan Obi faction. Just this weekend, Dan Obi has said that Dr. Asue Ighodalo is not the way forward for the PDP in the state as far as this election is concerned. On the other hand, Shaibu is the embattled former deputy governor of the state who got impeached just a few weeks ago. But we understand he's in court with the PDP, Obaseki, and Asue as we speak right now. Ajoto is the former speaker of the House of Assembly in Edo State. Of course, he had been there for 2 times. He's from Akoko Edo, which is Edo North Senatorial District, very pivotal. These are now believed to be forces teaming up with Oshomole, who is a leader of the party of the APC in the state, to work against Obaseki and his political godson, as some people now call him, Dr. Asue Ighodalo. But then that's all we're bringing your way from the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Business Day is up next.
Yeah, Business Day is our next paper, and on the front page of the Business Day, just above the nameplate of Business Day newspaper, we have CBN steps in to correct market rate distribution. CBN steps in to correct market rates distortion, I beg your pardon. This is at Naira, as Naira falls at NAFEM, but rebounds in black market. We also have rice millers. This happens to be the big story on Business Day newspaper. Rice millers roar back to life as cross-border paddy returns. We also have bank stocks head for biggest plunge in 10 years as investors fear dilution from recapitalization. And lastly, on Business Day, we have debunking economic myths. Strong currency doesn't necessarily translate to a strong economy. You find that on page 14 and 19 of Business Day newspaper. I'm particularly interested in this last story.
Not about strong currency?
Yes, strong currency.
Doesn't necessarily translate to strong economy. Exactly, because there are several other economic indices you need to look at, right? You need to look at inflationary trends, for example. You need to look at, in particular, food inflation is very important because people must eat to be able to say whether or not the economy is moving in the right direction. One time, second year in university, a lecturer has said that one of the clear indications or indicators that the country is succeeding economically is when you have been able to conquer the challenge of food, all right? You've been able to provide food for the for the larger population, all right? So if you're still dealing with a situation where people are saying, we can't eat at all, we can't have 2 square meals, we can't have 3 square meals, that means there's a big problem. So long and short of the story is that you have strong Naira now, in the case of Nigeria in particular, is not necessarily a pointer to the fact that the economy is healthy.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's that for the Business Day
So
newspaper.
we have Daily Sun next, I suppose. Yes, we have Daily Sun. That's our next port of call this morning. Let's take a look at the side headline on the front page of the Daily Sun this morning. All right. It says, Southeast businessmen task governors on rail security orders. Southeast businessmen task governors on rail security orders. That's on the front page of the Daily Sun. Fuel queues spread, commuters groan, transport fare soars, okay, on the Daily Sun. Of course, Queen and I have taken our time to talk about fuel scarcity and its adverse impacts on the economy and indeed Nigerians. Again, Tinubu explains fuel subsidy removal, insists action was necessary for Nigeria not to go bankrupt. And then at the foot of Daily Sun, today's issue of the paper, campaign of calumny being sponsored against Power Minister. That's a CSO there talking. Moles betrayers destroying PDP. Suswam explains reasons party cleared 16 years in cleared, okay? party, okay, after 16 years in power. American school confirms return of Yahya Bello's child's advanced school fees. I never knew parents or guardians could pay school fees in advance. Yes, this is
especially school fees that are exorbitant.
This is a learning curve for me, Queen. I mean, I'm adding to knowledge. Trust me. Reps proposed 330-day trial limits for civil criminal cases. Discos may post losses as alternative power firms storm estates households. Discos may post losses as alternative power firms storm estates households. Okay, admits depletion of earnings over tariff hike. Enugu community conducts mass burial for 8 victims of communal clashes. Black Sunday as 19 die in Kogi road mishap. That's so sad. We understand it happened on Okene Lokoja Road yesterday. Reps will engage traditional rulers on constitution review. Benjamin Kadu, that's the deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, there is one to whom that headline is credited. Wike seeks church prayers for Tinubu to fulfill campaign promises. You know, let's talk about this for a second, Queen, just before we move to Daily Trust, our next paper. You know, somebody was saying that, look, you don't need prayers to fix a country. I mean, prayer is good. Prayer has its place for people of faith, regardless of what their faith is. However, you can't pray for somebody without a plan. You can't pray for somebody who has a plan but doesn't have the willpower, doesn't have the wisdom, doesn't have the competence, capacity, and track record to drive that plan. So what do? You first of all ask yourself, what is the problem? Are people even doing the right things? Like asking that we pray for people who trash our cities, people who know that an expended bottle of water, for example, should be properly trashed. You're asking us to pray for them. Do we pray for them, or do we do something practical, something pragmatic to give them some sort of transformation? All right, to give them some sort of reorientation, because it's a thing of the mind. All right, so when we say let's pray for President Bola Tinubu, sometimes there's a bit of sycophancy that comes with that, really.
Exactly. And you know, for you to believe that much in prayer, that means you have faith. And what does the Bible say? Faith without works is dead. You can't say you're praying and then there are no efforts, you're not making pragmatic approach, taking pragmatic efforts to ensure that what is done is done. Obviously, we elected this man into office, and then we need to see strategies that have been implemented, to ensure that a lot of things are put properly in place, a lot of things are right. So to a great extent, I think that is sycophancy. Just let's pray for him, without doing our due responsibilities and enforcing what needs to be enforced.
All right, Queen has the next paper for us.
Our next paper is the Daily Sun newspaper.
That's the Daily Trust.
Daily Trust. The Daily Trust, I beg your pardon. And on the front page of the Daily Trust, we see, this happens to be the big story on most of the newspapers. Petrol scarcity worsens nationwide. Depots, I beg your pardon, have run out of stock. This is accredited to marketers. Marketers are saying that depots have run out of stock. We are not in short supply. And then the NNPCL is saying that they are not in short supply. So why is petrol scarce? Meningitis kills 85% in Yobe. War on Gaza. OIC, 6 Arab countries seek sanctions against Israel. 19 burnt to death in Kogi auto crash. Just underneath the big image that we see on Daily Trust, what's here is we see a petrol pump and cars, long queues, the big picture there. Long
and that speaks of volume.
Yes, and then the map of Nigeria as well. This should be indicating the petrol prices in different parts,
cities, right?
Yes, different parts of the country, different cities in the country, from Abuja down to Kano. There, you can pick up the front page of the Daily Trust to know more about that. And then we have how prices of rice, meat, garri rose in March. MBS gives us that. We have shareholders approve Zenith Bank's holdco structure. Insurgency, Zulum pushes for return of Malam Fatori residents. And lastly, on Daily Trust, we have man kills wife in Ekiti over alleged infidelity.
That's very disturbing, right?
Disturbing. That's for the Daily Trust.
Right. And the prices of essentials like meat, gari, rice rising in March, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Again, it's a reminder of how far we've come in this economic turmoil as it stands right now. But let's take it to our next paper, everybody. This time it's the Leadership newspaper. Let's begin with stories above the name mast this morning. First one here has a picture of the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Kadoso, says CBN drops import duty forex rate to 1,164 naira 84 kobo to the dollar. That's exclusively for import duty forex. Okay. Kano begins probe of Ganduje today. We understand the committee will have its inaugural sitting today. So the Kano Anti-Corruption Agency is moving on with the probe of its immediate, the state's immediate past governor, who is now the national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. All right. Recapitalization. Banking stocks declined by 2.069 trillion naira in 16 days. That's significant. All right. Banking stocks declined by 2.069 trillion naira in 16 days. Subsidy removal necessary for Nigeria's economy. Tinubu calls for new constitution. NAS turns a deaf ear, proceeds with amendments. We have been told that amendments will not save the constitution. That Nigeria has to evolve an entirely new constitution. One, they say, has to be people-oriented. But this headline has a few, about two riders to it. Reps say the calls for anarchy, chaos, received 13,500 memoranda. Reforms will be taken seriously. That's according to the Senate. But when you look to the right corner of today's issue of the Leadership newspaper, it says 19 died, 2 rescued in Okene auto crash. That's according to the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC. Prices of foodstuff drop in Adamawa, Borno, Yobe. It has to be so in other cities across our country. Bandits loots abandoned Niger villages. Gunmen killed Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator in Ondo. We understand that the police are on the trail of the suspects already. So Quinn will take us through the Punch newspaper.
The Punch newspaper, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have, I beg your pardon, we have on the front page of the Punch, fuel crisis, still the big story there. Fuel crisis worsens as Depot diverts PMS to Abuja. The rider there says NNPC rations supply to Depot, orders operators to prioritize loading to Abuja. Queues spread in Lagos, Ogun. Orders station raise pump price as black market thrives. Just above the nameplate of the Punch, we have removing fuel subsidy saved Nigeria from bankruptcy, Tinubu says, and Naira rebounds to 1,275 Naira per dollar at parallel market. Adenuga at 71, jack of all trades, master of all. We still have big pictures there on the front page of the newspaper with long queues and, petrol people and filling stations here, there. This should be in Lagos. They say queues at filling stations in Lagos on Sunday. We also have man accused of cement theft jumps into Lagos Lagoon and dies. Please.
I'm wondering how much of cement was he accused of stealing? Was it a bag, a truckload, an entire warehouse?
To have, cost him his
plunged
life.
himself into the lagoon.
Yeah, that's disturbing and sad. Police launch probe as gunmen kill Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator. Politics. We also have Abiodun orders residents evacuation after Ogun gas explosion. As regards Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator, I pray that the perpetrators are brought to book, as police have now launched probe as to the gunmen that killed his campaign coordinator. That's for the Punch newspaper.
Let's bring you the Daily Times now, everyone. But let's begin with the headline above the nameplate of today's issue of the Daily Times newspaper. Shettima urges political leaders to project Nigeria's cultural diversity. Is a way to go. Why political godfathers, godsons disagree, Senator Suswam says Mole's betrayers destroying PDP. Tinubu calls for inclusiveness in addressing global challenges. Of course, that goes without saying. But the PDP itself, I mean, just to come back to that big story on the front page of the Daily Times today, has had its own fair share of internal conflicts. So beyond the moles and the traitors, as former Governor of Benue State Suswam here is claiming, the PDP has also had its own missteps. The PDP has made its own mistakes, like other political parties. The question is, who is taking responsibility for those errors made by the PDP, particularly at the national leadership level? I'm sure the people in that party should have that conversation at someday. So we're going to the Guardian newspaper with Queen now.
The Daily Times really doesn't have that much story on the Daily Times. So let's move
to the Guardian.
Over to the Guardian newspaper. What do we have on the Guardian newspaper? Petrol scarcity will linger 2 weeks more. Petrol is literally the big story on all papers because it's an issue of national concern. Petrol scarcity will linger 2 more weeks, Ipman says, as scarcity spreads nationwide. Long queues emerge at filling stations. Hawkers sell petrol at 1,000 naira per litre. We're talking about black market. Commuters stranded at motor parks. We have adequate stock, NNPC says. Scarcity hurting businesses. This is coming from transport operators. Obviously, it is hurting. Above the Vanguard nameplate, we have Sanwo-Olu sacks 425 LWC redundant officials. Ondo Goba, Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator, killed by gunmen. Edo Goba, we have Y. Obi, Shaibu, Ajoto, others re-ganging up against Obaseki. Y. Obi, Shaibu, Ajoto, and others reganging up against Obaseki. The writer there says Akoko Edo will deliver 80% of its votes to Igodalo. Omobayo says, and AAC is alternative party for Edo people. This is accredited to Oberai for governorship candidate. And we have unveils humanity first agenda. There's a whole lot going on with the Edo State Goba. And we have Zenith Bank shareholders approve transition to holdco structure. Let's move on to other stories. Why Naira depreciated by 23% in 4 days? Currency dealers and analysts. We also have, we removed petrol subsidy to avoid bankruptcy. Tinubu is saying that they removed petrol subsidy to avoid bankruptcy. Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. FG begins enforcement of right of way. Well, that's about the Vanguard newspaper. What paper are you bringing to us?
Let's find some headlines as well, everyone, on the Nation newspaper this morning. The Nation has got quite a number of headlines as well, but let's start with the star story that reads, petrol scarcity spreads to Lagos, Oyo, Ondo, Osun, Edo, others. Stories around petrol scarcity replicated across newspapers this morning. Marketers, that's the writer there, marketers resume product lifting from depots. NNPCL, there is sufficient stock. We hear you. All right. What's more, one here with a picture of the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Dr. Zach Adedeji. He says how Port's single window policy will boost economy. PDP wins all 33 council seats in Oyo. Why we won? So what's more, at the top of the paper, the top of the nameplates, electricity crisis, Lagos, Edo, Oyo awaits NERC's nod. Enugu, Ekiti, Ondo blaze the trail. Bandits, terrorists killed 90 policemen in 1 year. How to prevent losing men by Okiru. And then how banks plan to meet recapitalization conditions. That's also a headline today on the Nation newspaper. All right, then let's take a look at the foot of it. 19 die in Okene Lokoja Highway crash. 120 vehicles burnt in Rivers tanker fire. Okay, then Danish firm Maersk to invest $600 million in Apapa ports. Others. Okay, so it means our cashew exports will be intensified at this point, because it's one company that specializes in cashew value chain, particularly across ports in the West African sub-region of Papa, Lomé, and even up to Abidjan in Ivory Coast. So Quinn will bring us headlines from This Day newspaper now.
This Day newspaper, on the front page, we have Tinubu at WEF says subsidy removal, forex reform saved Nigeria from bankruptcy. You also have the writer there says that meets Microsoft founder Bill Gates, chairman of AP Mola Maersk, Ugla, CEO of Samsung, Hong Nam Kong, others, secures $600 million Danish investment to expand Nigeria's existing sea ports on This Day newspaper. And then we have a picture of the Zenith Bank MD. Zenith Bank Court ordered extraordinary general meeting. There, the founder and chairman of Zenith Bank PLC, Jimovia, and the chief executive, Dr. Ebenezer Onyago, on the right there of that picture. So that's about This Day newspaper.
And we have the Nigerian Tribune as our very last port of call this morning, everyone. Nigerian Tribune. Okay, Nigerian Tribune says at the top of the nameplates, let's see, why we ended petrol subsidy. That's President Tinubu speaking at World Economic Forum. Okay, Gandhiji's probe commission of inquiry holds inaugural session today. NAS Constitution Review Committee to meet Tinubu. Why? Well, find out when you pick up a copy of today's issue of the Nigerian Tribune on page 5. And then big story says Senate expresses concern over Naira depreciation, blames fiscal deficits, fluctuation in crude oil prices. Naira weakens under renewed attack by crypto traders despite $17.93 billion market turnover. Coastal Road, affected property owners seek adequate compensation as FG begins demolition. The writer says we will begin payment from Wednesday. Minister, that's actually in 2 days' time. PDP declared winner of Oyo LG polls. All 33 local government councils, we understand, were declared by the PDP. All right, government killed Ayedatiwa's campaign coordinator. That's with regards to Ondo State's Guba, scheduled for November of this year. Accident claims 19 lives on Okene Lokoja Highway. Those are the headlines from across Nigerian dailies for you this morning. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. And when we return, it will be time to bring you our first conversation on the show this morning. Do stay with us. Thank you everyone for staying with us. To put our first conversation on the road this morning, we're joined by Chibuzo Okereke. He's a policy analyst as well as a public commentator. He joins us live via Zoom from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to help find some insights and perspectives as it has to do with the state of our correctional facilities across Nigeria. Chibuzo, thank you for jumping on the Monday's edition of Global Morning. All right, great. So I'm just going to start off with asking you what exactly it is with our correctional facilities across the country, which many people would popularly call prisons, because we understand up until this point, I mean, 24 years into a new millennium, prisons are still referred to as colonial era. Help us make sense of that real quick. We today confidently say that our prisons or our correctional centers are secure enough to make the people feel safe, secure enough to serve the purpose for which they were designed in the first instance. These are questions to which we're finding answers in the course of our discussion with Chibuzo Okereke this morning on the program. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll have him on. We understand that we've been able to get passed on to Chibuzo Okereke right now. So Chibuzo, I was asking a while ago, but first off, I'd like to say thank you for taking our time to join us on the program. Hello, Chibuzo, can you hear us? It will appear we're having some sort of audio glitch with that connection, but that has been corrected right now, so we can find some sense in these developments, because there are also policy issues around this challenge. There are issues around standards, and then of course you have issues around reforms. So we understand we have audio now. So Chibuzo, once again, welcome to Global Morning. Yeah, Chibuzo, I assume you can hear us. Good morning and welcome to the program. It appears this is a persistent headache, right? At that point where they say you have to see a doctor, right? Okay, let's take a quick break now so we can check in with the doctor for a second. Okay, so it appears we're better now. Chibuzo, good morning again. Yeah, Chibuzo, can you hear us now? All right, great. I would like to appreciate you for taking our time to join us on Global Morning today. Okay, so we'll take a quick break, everyone. We'll return shortly with the program. Okay, doctor says we've been given a clean bill of health now. Okay. Good morning, Chibuzo. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
All right, we apologize for the hassle and all of the rigors, but then the good thing was we're on now. So I was asking a while ago, this is 24 years into the 21st century, Nigerian correctional centers, otherwise popularly called prisons, are still referred to as colonial era. What does that say?
Well, I think there are many variables to it. First, maybe because of cultural or religious belief or just the way our society is organized. We have not paid attention to the issue of correctional service in Nigeria. And that is evident in the way we have implemented the various statutory instruments around the correctional service. If you remember, we had the prison service for many years, even as colonial legislation. And then I think in 2019, around the globe, there were this agitation to the fact that those in prisons also have human rights and that we need to kind of invest in them so that we can reintegrate them into society to continue to contribute value to community and society. And that brought about the global push for many of the centers who are referred to as prisons to now be renamed as correctional centers, so that people, as they are going there, they are not going with a kind of stigmatization that cannot be changed. They are going that this is a punishment, that is a correction for an act they have done that is against society or against the law. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, I think when we passed that law, what we were able to do is to change the signages, the signposts across all the correctional service center. Nothing else changed. And the law was robust in providing all the things that needs to happen for it to move from being prisons to correctional center. But we simply change all the signposts across all the prisons from prison to correctional center, and nothing else changed. In 2023, also there was a constitutional alteration to remove the correctional service center from the exclusive list to concurrent list. Unfortunately, since that time till now, no subnational had even focused attention on making any law as to localize or domesticate the correctional service center within the state. Meanwhile, most of them have been making efforts to localize the electricity regulation law. And both of these laws received the same legislative action, the same time, the same period. But everybody is focusing attention on the one that will give revenue to them rather than the correctional service center. So that is why the perception has remained so, and to the fact that most of the physical structures across time has remained the one built by the colonial masters, who have not even invested into the prison, because there is this idea that, oh, the way society also perceives it. The truth is that as long as there is law and order in society, you have to have people that will be in prison, because the law must commit people to do offenses that could take them to prison. So the prisons, or the correctional service center as we now prefer, is an integral part of governance and building society and development of a country. Because if you don't take care of the people that are there, then you're also breeding them to come back and unleash even more harm to society. So we have not seen, as you know very well, any significant investment. And in this respect, I may not blame the politicians totally, because no politician will go to any place and campaign and say that, remember, I built the prison in this community. If you say that, you'll probably be losing votes because of how people perceive incarceration and perceive, they see, we have not accepted that the consequence for an offense should not be forgiveness. That even if it is that the correctional center should also be perceived as the forgiveness of the law, just like you have spiritual forgiveness, for those in the Christian faith. So if you're committed to the correctional center, it's actually a form of forgiveness to get you rehabilitated for what you've done. But society have not accepted that, and that is probably why you don't see investment from the government into that, because politicians like what they will use to campaign. That you could also see many governors are not able to even sign the final. If somebody is on death sentence, you will require the governor to sign execution. If you go to many states, you have many of these on the desk of the governor, and because of probably their religious faith, culture, or belief, they are not able to take up that responsibility. So there is more to it in terms of our own African belief, culture, religion, and what have you. And that is, these are variables that impact on the kind of development and investment you see with the correctional service centers.
It's interesting. My colleague Queen will be asking you a few questions as well shortly. She's on the program with me. But I want to ask you this, Chibuzo. Now, you go to a place like the US, there's a private sector element, very strong private sector element in the way their prisons are run. It's been like that for decades. Is it possible for a country like Nigeria that has, as it were, adopted, I mean, I use that word advisedly, the American variant of democracy or model of democracy, to also say, can we not domesticate, or if you like, copy the private sector variable in the way the prison system is run in the US?
Well, I can tell you that what is lacking here is responsibility and accountability. The private sector is vitally involved. In fact, without the private sector, like the churches, the mosques, the NGOs in Nigeria, the prison or the correctional centers will be a very terrible place. If you go there, most of the television you see, they are installing television, installing DSTV, providing chairs, providing groceries and sanitary provisions. All manner of things have been provided by different NGOs and the church and mosque groups and even private individuals. Unfortunately, there is no accountability. There is no framework for that. It is not also structured. There are no, kind of arrangement to integrate that properly. You saw, and it also goes to the way we implement policies and regulation. When the correctional service officials came to defend their 2024 appropriation proposal, you saw them being asked questions. How many dogs do you have? How much do you use to feed a dog in a day? How much do you use to feed a prisoner in a day? You saw the drama that ensued at the National Assembly. So we are dealing with a question of capacity gap or simply deliberate effort not to do the right thing and focus on the right thing. So, and that is why I say that you have to first of all recognize that the purpose of the correctional center is an integral part of national development. That what we do there could actually contribute to building the society. Then how you function and organize your work will be able to, affect the people that are there. And you can tell that because of poverty level, most people too want to go to the correctional service center where they will be receiving food, because some of the state laws, and that is another point, the state laws, all manner of laws, environmental law, all kinds of sanitation law that are putting people behind bars and then force the government to feed them is another challenge. And you saw the intervention of the Minister of Interior where I understand he raised over 500 million to pay fines, because some people that are owing fine of 100,000 have been in the correctional center, who is costing the government more to maintain them than the cost of the fine they have been charged with. So it's also about efficiency and economy of administration of the criminal justice system. How do you put somebody on a fine of 100,000 and is the person that remain in the center? And we have spent more taking care of the person than the charge on it. So it's not economical, it's not efficient, it's not cost effective. So all these things are fair. I agree. Just like the Police Act in 2020 has a provision for private police that have not been implemented. In the Correctional Service Act that repealed and reenacted, there are sufficient provision there for multi-stakeholder participation and contribution. It is about those responsible for implementing those laws, understanding the spirit of the law, and then taking steps to operationalize the provisions of the law, which is not happening. Sitting down and just complain about receiving meager allocation to your agency or whatever is not the solution that we need. In the correctional service centers, we have models. Yeah, we have to change even our laws to the kind of punishment people are given, because we understand that other countries utilize their correctional service center inmates for more productive contribution to the economy than what we see in Nigeria. In the past, they can be deployed to handle machines for farming. They can learn skills and put it. Most of the contract we spend money on in government buildings, those that are in correctional service center can actually be equipped and trained to provide some of these services, and Nigeria would gain more from it. Because when you commit a crime, we can look at positive contribution as punitive measure, which you could make inmates see a good side of him because people that are into crime have a lot of variables and background to it. There's a kind of punitive measure applied that will help the person to know that yes, and that is the notion, the concept of having moving from prison to correctional center is actually to deal with this kind of situation where inmates are able to recognize skills they have in a confined environment and deploy it for national development. Yeah.
Well said, Mr. Chibuzo. Now, we've had a lot of people are talking, especially as regards the state of correctional prisons and how people are convicted, how overpopulated these prisons are, how overcrowded it is. And the question I was going to ask you did give some bit of answers to it as to when people are fined. For example, for an offense, you're fined for 100,000 and a fine of 100,000, or you'll be remanded in prison. How do we go about this so that we reduce overcrowdedness in the prison, in a situation where this person cannot pay that fine, and the alternative there would be to, reprimand that person in prison? What do we do? How do we now begin to resolve issues like this, and how do we begin to ensure that people are duly convicted for crimes that they committed?
Yeah, thank you very much. And that is the reason to have a robust criminal justice system that is not just applying provisions of the law, but looking at the spirit of the law. When punitive provisions are made in the law, it is not strict to censor for somebody to say, oh, because this crime is 2 years, or with option of a fine of this, you just charge the person the fine. You could, when you see the person, you know if he's able to. Some punishment could, by the discretion of the judge within the spirit of the law, lead to certain labor service you can render in a supervised and confined manner. If you have been checked, you cannot pay fine of 100,000. You can see the little boy was found on the street loitering, and the police accused him of something or whatever. They brought him there. He said, somebody have not eaten 2,000 in a day, and he's to pay 50,000. He will not answer you now. You follow you people to that place, no matter the condition. He even see it as a shelter for for him. He remains there, and that is why it just adds to the number. Also, I'm worried that if you ask Nigeria today, how many inmates do you have across our prisons? And you'll be getting approximately about this. You hear that in the police. How many police officers do we have? I can't understand. I mean, why data is such a problem, if not for purposes of corruption. Inmates are human beings. They are accountable. They are accountable nouns. They are not, you cannot approximate a human being. There is no 1.5 prisoner or what have, even if the person doesn't have 2 legs or 2 hands. So we should be able to give a good account of the number of people we have in the prisons. One, because these are part of the fact that should be supplied to a judge who is about to remand somebody. Because if the judge knows the capacity of a prison is 2,000, and as at today, while this judgment is to be delivered, we already have 3,000 in that. Why would the judge still ask the person to be, remanded? Remanded where? Where is the person going to be accommodated? So that should be looked at also critically. Another situation is using the example of the Minister of Interior. We can now rechannel the energy of some of the intervention we are getting from the private sector and NGOs. They can have a trust fund account dedicated for payment of small fines, so that we don't go and put people that their fine are not much or their crime is not, kind of heinous crime. Instead of sending the person to the prison or to the correctional center, waiting for when his people who don't even know that he's in that place will gather money to pay fine. We can now use the trust fund to pay off that fine, give the person a manual labor, to do within the society, and supervise the person. After doing that manual labor for 1 week or 2 or a month, the person is discharged. So the state benefits in 2 ways. You have tapped into trust fund by the private sector and NGOs, rather than, when an NGO visits a correctional service center, they will tell you to provide the things government has already given them money to provide. And this has been alleged by many people. When these private individuals provide these things, you will still see them being invoiced and paid for from the government allocations. So it doesn't make sense. So we're even confused as to intervention supposed to enhance and improve what we have allocated from government coffers. However, it just, net in, net out, without it adding to it, because somebody is not doing what he's supposed to do. And that is very wrong.
The state of our correctional centers, like you rightly put it, I like how you put it, is very integral to nation building. And we're not just even talking about correctional centers alone. This cuts across other aspects of Nigeria's economy and nation building. We see that most facilities are dilapidated, they are bad, and until something happens, until there's a collapse or something happens, and then we see we are trying to fix things up, trying to patch things up. An instance would be here now that it's being proposed that the location will be moved somewhere else. Or after this incident, we know these are unforeseen circumstances, the rain, but we should, to an extent, ensure that there is renovation. How properly are these facilities checked? What measures are in place? How do we, moving forward, what do we do to ensure that, disasters like this do not, at the blink of an eye, sway buildings and bring them down? What measures do we put in place to ensure that there's regular checks in buildings, government facilities, and all that, not just our prisons alone?
Yeah, I agree with you. And for many years, people have been talking about the maintenance culture. Oh, if you go to the Federal Secretariat today, you could see these are edifices that are national monuments and symbolizes, a pride for the nation. But most of them have been dilapidated. Today, what it will take to maintain and rehabilitate the various buildings in the Federal Secretariat, if we mention to Nigerians, they will shout and say, please leave it that way. We prefer to, but a lot of things, countries are not run that way. And this is why I believe that those in government should be visionaries. You see, things don't just happen. It is human beings that make things to happen. You cannot build, a structure of that magnitude, and there is no sinking fund designed to make sure that you provide for the maintenance of such national assets. Because at the time we built it, if we want to build it now, it will cost us almost 100 times what we spend because of inflation, economic issues, and what have you. And that is why smart nations design a sinking fund system for national asset protection. You must create a system that ensures and monitor to make sure that those systems work, not wait until the whole dilapidation have become visible, the structural integrity of those buildings have become questionable. People are now receiving advisory, please, so don't follow this part of the building, follow here. We saw, no. And this is happening in almost all the government buildings. In fact, you may be surprised that if you go to a villa, you're experiencing the same thing. And that is why people like us have called, we need to really change how governance is arranged. Every governance arrangement must be local to the need that the people have, especially, the national, not some kind of template you got from somewhere. If in the correctional centers, for instance, do you have the civil engineering department? Do you or is that who checks? Who checks when a building has stayed up to a certain number of years? Certain civil engineering component may become, you may need to audit it to know whether on your own you need to bring them down and rebuild it and not wait. And that is why we talk about being proactive, not being reactionary like we see. And that is putting the government in the bad light, because if you're not checking something, monitoring and taking action, things will always happen. You come every time and say, I assure you this, I assure you that. You can actually prevent a lot of assurances by doing certain pre-level activities that will protect, those things. But also when things like this happen, like what we saw in Suleja, it brings the government attention to the dysfunctional arrangement in way the system works. Because actually, what was contained in the handover note, a brief given to the ministers when they came in, when there is a transition of government, the handover notes that come from each agency or ministry should be total. It should be a comprehensive report touching on all aspects. So if that has been done, it will now inform the kind of budgetary allocation and where the focus, where that ministry or agency will direct each funding for the year, looking at emergency issues, priority issues, and issues of national importance. I'm also aware that there are categories of correctional centers. You have maybe primary, secondary, and tertiary. The maximum prisons are the ones for criminals, high-level criminals, and terrorists and what have you. But this primary and secondary level are dealing with other levels of crime can actually become a school. It can actually be built like a university deliberately, having just for the purpose of rehabilitating, so that there's an incentive. When you are there, you know that your life will not remain the same. What you could not get in the society, you are able to get there and come back and see the value in you. Because most people who commit crime and do all kinds of things they do, when you interrogate, crime is not good. And nobody is advised to do so. And there is no excuse for crime. But I can tell you there are environmental, economical, family, cultural, compelling, reasons why people get into some petty crimes and what have you. And those kind of people, correctional center become an opportunity for them to add value to their life and contribute to national development. So yes, I think that we should reorganize the way we do things, and the Minister of Interior also should immediately call. Right now, we know the number of prisons we have. We know where they are located. We know when they were built. We know how old they are. So somebody should do a comprehensive report per prison, per state, per zone, per whatever. And then there should be an interagency engagement right now at an intergovernmental working group to now look at how do we, now that Correctional Service Center is in the concurrent list, how do we in the federal, who have operated this for so many decades, help the state to build capacity to take responsibility for the level of correctional service center they should be responsible for for crimes that are not terrorism or high level criminal cases and all that. That should happen. You have to, so you have created a law. Let us not wait politically when they want to help them now with a technical working group to domesticate those laws and take responsibility for developing correctional centers within their zone. And a lot of advocacy needs to be done, because any village you go to now and say we want to bring prison, they still call it prison. They still see prison. They understand what that means. They have not. They don't see it as a development. So if you say school, they are happy. You say hospital, they are. If you tell any a group, oh, government want to locate prison in they can reject and say. So that is cultural. This is what advocacy need to break. Let people understand that, because they think, okay, some people say, if you bring prison, means criminals are being brought to our place. One day they will escape and rob us and do. So the society has not accepted the Correctional Service Center, despite changing the name from prison to Correctional Service Center. So we need a lot of advocacy, literacy, mass enlightenment to understand that this we cannot do without this. It's part of society, it's part of national development.
Okay, so on a final note, I'm just going to get you to speak to this. Minister of Interior, as it stands today, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, a man who has been adjudged by many to be doing an amazing work with regards to reforms and some sort of disruptive methods that he has adopted. But then this is a man also that some persons would argue that has a full plate. By that they're saying he has to provide leadership for the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, that is the NSCDC, and then you have the Nigerian Immigration Service, you have the Fire Service, and then on top of all that, you have the prisons. Is this bulk of work not enough to make it almost impossible, maybe extremely difficult at least, for him to pay as much attention to the prison system in this country as he's expected to?
No, you see, the ministries are not legal entities. These are administrative bodies created to exercise supervision and oversight. All the ministers need to do is not too much. For me, what is important is what kind of leadership do you have at the various agencies, the fire service, the correctional service, the civil defense, and all that. So, because the law created those agencies, and there are specific duties, there are specific functions and powers they have. So, if you have the right leadership there, the minister cannot spend his time thinking for those agencies. It's not the minister's job, except we are getting governance wrong. Even the minister has some good ideas. He directs it to the agency to do a memo, conceptualize it, develop the concept, and how it will be operationalized. Where it needs the minister's approval, you just send the document with your blue form summarizing the policy intent and the required action. He will look at it with his team technically and then approve if that is necessary. So he is supervising oversight and providing supervision. So there is nothing too much around it except you want to take over the functions of the agencies. And these agencies are a creation of the law. But I agree with the way Nigeria has been over time. Leadership is required, and that brings a burden to those who are ministers and really want their agencies to work. For instance, if the president talk about policy coordination units, monitoring and evaluation, setting targets, and what is the key performance indicators that has been passed from that coordination unit to the Ministry of Interior, what has been cascaded to the different agencies under the Interior Ministry. We see the effort in the immigration that is going on. But while we try to do those transformations, we should also look at the welfare of the member. We should also look at the recruitment system. We also look at how the entire system works, locally, and not just what appears, at the national level. So for me, there is nothing too much about it, because if you go down to the ministry, a full structure exists with independent leadership, self-accounting system they have. They practically only goes for the minister for approval at certain threshold. Yes, but in terms of implementing policies, they cooperate together to implement it. And that is also part of the reason I am calling for agencies and their ministers to work together. Ministers should not lord themselves over agencies and try to become a mini president of the agencies under them. There is no law that provides for that. So when they work together, then they will be able to achieve more. Across other ministries, there are ministries today where the agency heads have not been able to access their minister because of all kinds of arrangements and all that. So we have seen it in the past, where some agency head go to wait for their minister somewhere for 2 weeks. They are yet to see the minister. All those kind of things should stop. And the policy coordination unit should have that. But I think that the Minister of Interior is equal to the task. He's young, he's vibrant, he has shown capacity, but he should also allow the agencies to take initiatives, and he will support them to achieve it. So it's not just about him, but about the entire system.
Yeah, truly. Not just about him, but the entire system. Very clearly articulated. Many thanks, Mr. Chibuzo Okereke, for your time with us. We hope that you grace our platform again.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Do have a beautiful day ahead. Okay.
Interesting points he raised there about the prison system. Of course, this is an institution, all right? So approach to providing leadership and bringing reforms should also be systemized in such a way that we don't sing the praises of one minister at a point, maybe for 3-4 years, as the case may be, who is doing an amazing work. And then by the time they leave office, it will appear we have made 3 steps forward and 10 backwards, that kind of thing, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, we're taking a quick break here, everyone. Our second and last conversation will come on in a few minutes. Do stay with us. Aruna Braimo, a political analyst and a public affairs commentator, has joined us on the program this morning. Together, we're looking at developments in Edo State, particularly in light of the gubernatorial election scheduled for 21st of September. The gladiators are in the ring already, no doubt about that. Just last week, Wednesday, INEC had said officially campaigns have started. So we see political parties and their candidates now doubling down on efforts to not only campaign and pass their message to the voting public in the state, but to also, as it were, accentuate their belief and optimism that they will win this election. But what we do know is ultimately on the 12th of November, there will be a new governor at Osadebe, which is, of course, the official government house of Edo State. Aruna, it's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Great. So you and I have talked about Edo election here once or twice in the last few months. But things have taken a different turn now in light of the fact that campaigns have been flagged off.
Yeah, officially. Everything has kick-started.
Yes, across all the parties, of
course. All the parties. And in Edo State, it's basically three parties.
Okay.
It's a three-party
state or race
right now. We have the contending and the most vibrant APC political machinery doing their thing. We have the PDP, under the PDP is of two sides now, as it is today in Edo State.
The factions.
The faction. We have the factional side of the incumbent governor, Godwin Obaseki, doing his thing with their candidate, Aswa Godalo. And we have the Olumide Akpata side, which is the Labour Party. And I think over the weekend, we also saw the side of the former deputy governor, the impeached deputy governor, trying to kickstart his own political activities in Edo North with a welcome and well-celebrated gathering of people.
You know, it's interesting, now that you mentioned Philip Shaibu, I mean, in recent history, as far as Edo State and its politics are concerned, it will appear no politician has been this embattled. So when you say he has kick-started his political activities, to what end? Because he says he's still in the PDP, he has been impeached as the deputy governor, he's now the former deputy governor, he's not in the good books of Obaseki, he's not friends with Aswa Godalo. Of course, he has even alleged that Aswa Godalo sponsored this impeachment.
It's not...
I mean, so of what political value or relevance is Comrade Philip Shaibu?
Yeah, it's a relevance and political worth in Edo State in general, and its domain, Edo North in particular, cannot be underestimated, especially at this crucial period of time. And it's unfortunate what has happened to him. And you said he's one of the most embattled deputy governor in history. I think that gives rise to the fact that he has been impeached, the first and only deputy governor to be impeached in Edo State. His political intrigues and issues actually were the outcome or started in 2019, you know. So everything played out for their own good when he was with the governor. And when no longer with the governor, with his political ambition, it went south for him politically. And right now, he's hibernated, sort of, but he's trying to put himself in the political space to be relevant. And definitely, with the legacy fashion of the PDP in Edo State, they've all welcomed him. Danobi has welcomed the national vice chairman of the party, South has welcomed him. And those ones are also working underground to be fed, to be known, to be valued in the run-up to the September 2024 governorship election. And we know where they are already pitching their tent with.
I guess with the
APC.
We know with the APC.
They are already pitching their tent against the Obaseki-led...
That's in favor of the APC?
Of course, everything pain to PDP is gain to APC right now.
So it's a zero-sum movement?
Of course, we need more of them. We need more of their distraction in the PDP. You know, it's not holding. A structure that is not holding cannot formidably drive any political electionary. And you can see the APC is waxing stronger every day. You saw the outing over the weekend of the governorship aspirant, Senator Monday Okpebholo, a.k.a. Abakomiza. And you also see in the media what the deputy governor is doing with the diaspora Benin. Remember, Edo has more than enough people living abroad. So their influence... Who don't vote? No. Their influence in the political happening in Edo State over the years has helped to shape electionary and elections results in Edo State. You cannot deny that because they have assemblies down here in Nigeria. They even contribute more, they sponsor, they influence, they participate actively. Some even come down to vote. Some have voters card in Nigeria even before they travel abroad. And they have assemblies they can give directive and direction to. And everything will work out for good. It's APC time. It's the rescue mantra in Edo State right now. And the movement is going well. And by the grace of God, everything is working in good shape for an APC-led government in Denis Osadebe Avenue come November 2024.
When Oshiomhole ran for governor in Edo State in 2007, of course, INEC declared Professor Osareme Osumbo as the winner of that election. Then it was also the message, the mantra, that the ACN, as it then was coming to rescue Edo State from the PDP. Of course, Lucky Benedict had done 8 years at that point. Now, the PDP, the APC came into power, and then, of course, Obaseki has done virtually 8 years, which will wind down in September, in November, and all of that. Now, the APC is coming to get power back from the PDP, as politicians say, to recapture power. They say they want to rescue Edo State. So who actually is rescuing Edo State? Because we have seen too many rescue movements.
Point of correction.
Yes.
We are not recapturing power. We are not capturing. You know, we are rescuing the Edo people want and are yearning to be rescued. And we are willingly and that is the only way you can rescue true governance, political governance, is through political participation. The APC is using all its political machinery to ensure that Edo people are rescued from the current political Nebuchadnezzar that holds sway in the Osadebe Avenue, the PDP fashion-led government of Godwin Nogekase Obaseki. In 2007, when Oshiomhole ran for the election, we all knew the outcome of the 8 years of the Igbenedion government, Lucky Igbenedion government. And everybody will yearn for a change in Edo political scape, which Oshiomhole was bringing fresh air into. And when he was robbed of the election, he claimed his mandate back in 2008. If I'm not mistaken, November. Right. He claimed his mandate back. And after then, he actually did a lot. In the history of Edo State, as far as the Fourth Republic is concerned, Oshiomhole has been the best, arguably the best governor we have had. The facts are there. For the first time, I witnessed dual carriage roads in Edo State, in Benin Metropolis, across local government, including Auchi, you know, the beautification project, the Edo water storm. We had a vision economically of where we are going to, the red roof revolution across all the local government, secondary schools and primary schools. A whole lot we are going on. And that was what prompted the need, even as far as the health sector is concerned. An ultra-modern general hospital was built and constructed and commissioned by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari. A whole lot of infrastructural revolution were ongoing in the time of Oshiomhole. And that was why, in his own wisdom, he felt there was need for consolidation. Remember, PDP has been a conservative party from time, ideologically, though the essence of political ideology in Nigeria does not really play out. But when you see people with progressive ideas being in government across any party, its impact is always being practical and being felt in their governance style. That was what prompted Oshiomhole to feel and felt that there was need for continuation of progressive governance. Because when you curb the primary indices that drives an economy, which cut across infrastructure, education, health, these are basic structure that need to be in place for any other secondary activity to happen, to stratify economic growth and development of any state. And that was what he was doing. Normally, government is continuum. He wouldn't be able to do everything for 8 years. and he felt there was need for continuity, and which normally in the political boardroom, the APC felt, okay, since Obaseki was the head of the economic team of this government, and almost every project executed, he certified and recommended approvals for payment for those projects and everything. He knows where they've gone good, bad, where correction need to be done and everything, the financial status of the state, a whole lot that prompted the then comrade governor to throw his hat in the ring, put his burden, collected his sort across the 18 local government to work for the actualization of the Obaseki's victory, or for the purpose of continued progressive governance of Edo State. Unfortunately, after a few years, just like we always say, you cannot tell of who we are. You know, like Fashola will say, you should pray that your loyalty is not tested. You know, and they had political squabbles and issues. And the deputy governor, the former deputy governor, Filishabo, did really politically was mature enough to bring everybody together, because politically Obaseki was still a rookie. And Oshomole and Filishabo had a lot of strong political background, having worked together, having been together since the days of Labour, when Oshomole was in Labour and he was a NAS president. You understand? He really played a good role in all this. And politically they disembarked, and Oshomole was betrayed. They moved to PDP. The ideology got confused as far as governance is concerned, because you are going to a place, we knew that Obaseki was going to fail, because you are going to a party that has conservative structure, conservative ideas, just because of winning election. After winning election,
is the APC a liberal party? Now that we're talking about being conservative, is the APC a liberal party?
It's a progressive party. Living progressive
more
ideology.
Progressive than the PDP?
Absolutely.
By your own assessment?
It's not by my assessment, by ideology. If you look at, maybe another time we'll talk about the political evolution that has happened from the era of UPN that prompted the Shagari administration till date, how the political metamorphosis has happened over the years. If you still sit down today, you see the traces from to SDP, NRC, to UNCP, now PDP and APC, or ACN and APC. It has always been there. APC is not a liberal party.
Let's talk about Philip Shaibu for a second, because you already made...
yeah, I will have to explain this. The failure of Obaseki is prompting us to want to come back, to rescue Edo from him. We are heading south. It's unfortunate and it's sad that a state that is the 9th highest generator of IGR, the 9th richest state on IGR in Nigeria out of 36 states, has the second to the lowest budget for education in the whole country. Does that state, in your own opinion, not need rescue? A state that is among the South-South states, the South-South state today is the state that is in a region that has one of the worst multi-disciplinary dimensional poverty index in Nigeria. Does that state not need rescue? A state with 46% youth unemployment, does that state not need rescue? A state that is from Midwest to Bende to Edo, this is a city. Benin City has been the headquarters. Yet you go to Benin City today, you could not even sustain the urban renewal program of the state or of the city, Benin City. Does that state not need rescue? A state that is budgeting over 23 billion for the governor's office. Meanwhile, you are number 17th on the number of out-of-school children states in Nigeria. What is the budget for education in the 2024 budget? And what is the budget for governor's office? I just told you. And the governor's office and the legislature and the other, they are almost 63 billion. A state that is budgeting 53 billion for secular economy, that does not have a ministry or no structure, he term it secular economy. Does that state not need rescue? We need organic governance, and
but such initiatives are by default midwifed by Ministry of Finance.
But it's not. It created it. I'm a financial expert, but it created a nomenclature to it. Circular economy. Is there a ministry for circular economy? He just used grammar to deceive everybody. In the written, circular economy means ease of doing business. What has been the impact? A state that received over 36 billion in investment window from the Emefiele-led CBN during Buhari administration for palm oil production, for smallholders, to give to smallholders palm oil farmers rather, and nothing to show for it. And this money are being invested in other multinational oil, palm oil company like Presco and the rest. A state that goes to sign MOU with foreign investors, deceiving us that they are coming to build a refinery, they are coming to build this. Not on PPP arrangement, you are not doing public-private partnership. You told us that they are only on, your own is to support them with maybe land or whatever. At the end of the day, you move Edo State money in billions to be the first startup capital for a private company, building a private project in Edo State that is only owned by the same private people. Does that state not need rescue? A state where Oshomole invested about $2 million in Azura Power to improve power generation. Azura Power is in Adowawa. You came and divested millions of dollars of our Edo State investment in Azura Power project, and diverted that you are using it to build a Benin Industrial Park or Enterprise Park. And today there's nothing to show for it. You signed an MOU with a private company, you collected our investment in another place and put it there. State's money. Does that state not need rescue? A state that budgeted 320 billion in 2023 as annual budget. In 2024, where the oil subsidy has been removed, where you are not any, if 3 months ago, our allocation was almost 11 billion. Federal allocation, not talk of IGRO. And in 2024, you are still budgeting 321 billion. A state you cannot, there's no accountability where you can come out and tell us the 30% derivatives that every other state has confirmed, has told their people, including Rivers State, that this is what we receive. Accumulated, the one that they were owing, that Buhari paid. You cannot tell Edo people. So you cannot show us. The list goes on.
So these are the things
a state that cannot drive SME, rural economy, microeconomics of Edo State is in zero, is in red. Even the federal government of Buhari gave Edo State through Bank of Industry $2 billion to support SME. As he told us, who has received 1 naira, 3.9 billion cassava program. As he told us, who collected any. I'm not talking of agriculture. 25 billion agripreneur support fund. Warehouse in Sterling Bank, the same Sterling Bank that is being chaired by Asha Igodalo.
But he has resigned his chairmanship of the
Of course, when he was there as the chairman, the money is in warehouse. They should explain to us.
Let's talk about what Senator Monday Okpebholo will do to change all of this, because there's also the conversation about how that his loyalty is already with the party leaders as against Edo people.
What the loyalty is with the Edo people. What is party leader? There's what is called party politics and governance. They are two different things. We are doing elections right now. Every party leader in APC is needed, is welcomed. At the same time, the goal is to serve the Edo people. Senator Monday Okpebholo, aka Akpakomiza, stand for service, absolute service, with all sense of humility. Organic, for the first time, we are going to be experiencing organic governance.
What does that mean in this context?
Homegrown. We are not bringing people from Lagos to come and be governors in Edo State, people that cannot even speak to, they don't understand the states. Edo State have become a rent-seeking state into their pocket over the years for too long. Go to Edo State today, as you are paying, anything you are paying to government coffers goes to Sterling Bank. Anything government.
But there's nothing wrong with that. Every state government has.
I just told you, even for official bank, yes, Sterling Bank has become official bank, and the same chairman of the Sterling Bank is now being projected by the incumbent governor. Former chairman is now being presented and projected by the incumbent governor.
Does that constitute, or does that
ironically
conflict of interest?
Of course, ironically, the same man is the chairman of the economic team for the past 8 years of Obaseki. So it's part of the failures of Obaseki. You've been to Benin so many times. Is that the kind of city that Oshomole bequeathed in 2016? Are we regressing or we are progressing? That is the pride of Africa, that city, the Great Benin Kingdom. A state that the governor does not have any relevance, any regards for the traditional institution. To the extent of having to have any form of swap directly or indirectly with the palace, the most revered palace and kingdom in Africa to live in, still existed today. With all sorts of responsibility, that is a kingdom that cannot be altered by any government in Nigeria. Yet, one man has become a Nebuchadnezzar on all of us. Demolishing people's properties. Every of his opposition, you know what happened to Tony Kabaka, the youth leader of the APC. His complete hotel was brought down. A 3-star hotel was brought down.
Well, it was a part of it they cut off because they say it was encroachment.
Go and check. What is encroachment? When you destroy half of my hotel, what is the relevance of the other part?
But they say it was on the basis of encroachment.
Well, what kind of encroachment? Well, the same Kabaka, okay, the CFO was revoking. Who issued the CFO? In the same government he was part of as the economic head of Oshomole administration.
But he was not in charge of issuing CFOs.
We are saying, did he not collect CFO? For the first time, because he didn't have a land in Benin, a governor that does not have a land in his own state, talk less of a house, and you are bringing another person that does not even know road to his house, to his village. He cannot. You need to go with interpreter to go and talk to your people, and you say politics is local.
Aruna, I'm sure this is just going to be the first part of series in this discussion.
No problem.
Because campaign has just started.
Of course, we are very much available. In our next discussion, we'll be telling you the programs and plans of the Okpebolo led government that is going to be. Is the incoming governor of Edo State.
Well, we'll talk about those dynamics shortly. All right, thank you so much, Haruna.
Thank you very much
for coming to spend time with us on the program this morning. And say happy as this is where we're living it, everyone. And we will continue to bring you developments from Edo State with regards to this election. I'm Muya Mofwebe, myself and my colleague Queen Agaba, and the entire production team here say thank you for investing a part of your morning.